Dear colleagues, let me start by congratulating my co-rapporteurs here on other but very important similar topics that we're discussing this in one debate. Different components of the crimes, legal consequences, what can we do to protect, to counter aggression, and to look deeply on the cultural identity level, what the Russian aggression creates. The report of the role of sanctions in countering the Russian Federation war of aggression against Ukraine is covering many important, crucial issues. For more than 2 years that have passed, we have thousands and thousands of crimes that Russia committed, starting from deportation of Ukrainian children, starting from illegally capturing civilians, dozens, hundreds, thousands of crimes in environmental damage, destroying our flora and fauna, destroying our infrastructure, energy, destroying our lives, destroying our industries, destroying our ability to live in freedom, with the ability to hear the birds can be singing, because very often just all these attacks, they absolutely delete your ability to live and to breathe. For us, this is absolutely a survival mode. And when we hear the question, do sanctions work? Maybe we don't need sanctions. For us, it's very painful to hear, because sanctions is one of the tools that we actually have and is being imposed in a number of the sanction packages. Yes, there are loopholes, there are problems with sanctions, but still sanctions is the only one tool that is very effective in countering Russian aggression immediately. And in the first year of aggression, because of the sanctions, we managed to restrict Russian economy to run war against Ukraine, which means to commit less crimes. Yes, there are still thousands and millions of crimes, but still. And in this report, we cover a lot of important measures, such as, for instance, freezing of the Russian state assets, imposing of individual targeted sanctions, as well as introduction of an oil price cap and export control measures. Through these sanctions, we are capable to directly impact Russian access to foreign currencies, to reduce the revenues that Russia gains from exporting its oil, and to impede that Russians can put their hands on critical materials, machineries, dual-use goods, and the battlefield goods that they need to produce their deadly weapons used against Ukraine. The number and the range of sanctions being imposed against Russia are unprecedented, making it right now the most sanctioned country around the world. However, according to the study published this year by the group Yermak and Magfol, International Working Group on Sanctions, and the Kyiv School of Economics Institute, we have the data that during the first 10 months of 2023, Russian imports from the Western countries of critical items for its military industry reached over 22 billion worth. Almost 2,800 foreign components have been found in the Russian weapons, which means that 95 of which are being produced by as many as 250 Western companies. And we cannot be certain of this number. We believe that the number is much higher. In addition, Russia has managed to set up a shadow fleet composed of 300 to 600 old tankers sailing under different flags, which allows them to trade its oil international markets at the prices above the imposed cap. But there is a number of environmental terrible damages that these old tankers are imposing to all of us. And the report is covering an importance of consideration of possibly closing or creating restrictive measures for those ports who still are open for this shadow fleet. We need to make sure that Russia is not able to use this shadow fleet. Currently, there is also a number of loopholes and gaps that Russia is using through different channels. And one of the measures that we have to take collectively is making sure that the customs data banking is strengthened. We need to make sure that financial restrictions are tightened, that particular banning all Russian and Belarusian banks from accessing the SWIFT international payment messaging system, and enlarging the list of sanctioned individuals to include those responsible for the persecution of political prisoners that Russia is trying to kill. The resolution has a call to the Council of Europe member states and non-member states to join the coalition of the countries that are imposing restrictive measures, and also to make sure that we have an effective coordination tools to share the information, to make sure that implementation of sanctions is happening, to make sure that the weapons production complex inside Russia is also sanctioned, that those who are absolutely directly committed to commit war crimes are responsible. It also concerns the private sector. No matter how many state measures we impose, we also need to call to the corporate responsibility of different companies, because no Russia clause is not just a word. It should be the ethical code that no one should break, and there should be criminal responsibility for those who break it. Our report is currently also having a number of amendments that we're going to discuss this afternoon, and I'm calling this assembly to support a number of important amendments. Thank you.